Thank you. Sorry about that. And the amount of assistance is provided for these households. Then we can improve housing stability outcomes for households at risk of becoming homeless in the 7-county metro area. That is what we're looking here at. Priority number 1, we all should be familiar with this one. We've been doing a lot of talking about it. Engaging other state agencies with the goal of shared ownership of housing stability goals and increased investment for extremely low income households, right? This is where we are leveraging the regional kitchen table to address prevention oriented housing and budget asks during the 2023 legislative session. We are engaging county level leadership on prevention framework and model takeaways, right? So we're looking at coordinating boards and county commissioners to help us with that strategy. Also inform and impact county level planning and policy decisions that pertain to the local homeless prevention aid, which we will talk about here shortly. The second priority, influence county budgets, decision procedures to identify opportunities for increased investment and strategies that impact housing stability. We are looking at convening a series of meetings with Department of Human Services and the RKT members to discuss modeling learnings and results and impact on emergency assistance and emergency general assistance. Convening with county financial assistance planners in partnership, of course, with the RKT members on opportunities for policy change at county level. And then again, we will use the regional kitchen table platform to inform Family Housing Fund design thinking on the redesign effort. And just, you know, just in case it's not obvious or it's missed or being overlooked, like all of our strategies and all of our priorities all simultaneously working on all together. So there's probably one strategy from each one of these groups that we are working on at the same time as others. So we'll just, you know, we're working on it as we go along. And then our last priority, implement policies to allow for assistance rent amounts to cover longer periods of times. We've been saying this for a while. So we're looking at going from that month to month to 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. Strategies, engaging the Housing Coordinating Board to discuss prevention framework, modeling results, and of course the 2023 aims. And this is where we're going to partner with our regional kitchen table members to provide for advocacy on prevention-oriented strategies in 2024 county budget process. And lastly, expand coalition of lived experience boards to amplify direct asks on more prevention-oriented strategies at the county level. I'm going to take a break and just, does anyone have any questions about the strategies, about the priorities, about, you know, perhaps different strategies to consider? Take all the questions, if anyone has any. All right, well, we will move along. And this is going to go over to Ms. Marla, I believe. So I'll pass that on over to her.
Thank you, Ms. Renee Rock. Hey, everybody. So we're going to dive into, it'll be a little bit of a recap and then an update from the LPHA funds that have came down the pike. So we're gonna, and first of all, I first want to thank Lauren, and I want to thank Miss Rebecca and Mikkel and Jenny Mason, due to my error. I didn't send out the request, as Laquita had mentioned, and Heather had emailed me, and I didn't look at the email to ask the counties about doing another brief update for us. And so that was not sent out to the counties till this morning at 7:30 a.m. So first, I want to tremendously again thank Lauren and Miss Jenny Mason and Mickle, who responds, and Miss Rebecca. Miss Rebecca is unable to be on the call, but she did ask me if I would read what she has sent. So I will do that for her. And then if any of the other counties are on board, Heather was mentioning, because we did have the SMAC retreat, that was, and then because the email was sent this morning, I think someone was saying 7:30, it was, yeah, 7:30 this morning. And you're able to give a 2-3 minute, nothing elaborate. Feel free to let us know in the chat and I can bring you in. We graciously appreciate. Thank you, Ms. Romero. I see your message. So we're going to go ahead and dive in, and I'll bring that up at the end if I can. Ms. Romero, since I saw you, are you ready? Would you mind going ahead for me?
Sure. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, I'm going to pull up my stuff here on my side. I'm not going to do any sharing or anything, just something I can reference here. So there is a team of us at Carver County working through policies and guidelines that we are writing up around this program, trying to keep it incredibly simple, but at the same time, we need to have some, guidance for the person processing the application so that she knows what she can approve and what she can't, and what's in line with the little bit of guidance we got from the Department of Revenue on how this is to be spent. So in Carver County, I think almost 100% of the funding will be going to direct assistance. So people will be able to fill out an application to request financial help with various things that they might need. I'm guessing majority will be rent, could be deposits, could be utilities, could be a lot rent or a mortgage, anything like that that's prevention related. We are open to people asking for what they need and then trying to determine if it fits within the guidelines. We're working right now on the actual application itself. We're hoping to have a fairly easy online fillable thing that people can fill out, but we will also have a paper version at the county that we can have sitting there on the table, or people can have mailed to them, or people can sorry, I just got distracted. People could have emailed to them via email, whatever form works best for the person who's asking for the assistance. All the funding will be administered by Carver County Income Support Department. So the same people who process emergency assistance and general assistance for Carver County. We are a fairly small team considering, comparing to other counties, and they generally process those requests within a week at the county versus the 30 days that they're allowed to have. So I think they're pretty competent to be able to do that. I welcome feedback. And if anybody with lived experience would like to help us review our policies and guidelines or look at the application and give me feedback, I would love that. And so if you're interested in doing that, please email me. And then I will set up a time to connect with you to go over what we're thinking of doing for our program in a lot more detail. So. Any questions?
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Romero. That's what. Anyone? Any questions for Ms. Romero? Any thoughts at this time?
Do they have to be in that county? Yes, they have to be Carver County residents. Yes. If we learn that someone is a resident of a different county, we will do the best we can to do a warm handoff. We will try to, hopefully I'll know what the other counties are doing with their funding as well, or what other resources are existing in other communities that would be similar to what they need, and I can refer them appropriately. So we have a kind of a system set up, a triage system, I guess you could say, set up so that we can, based on what the person's needing, figure out who else could answer their question if the person processing the application doesn't know the answer. So If it's about employment, it would go to the career force. If it's a different housing type question or like more systematic question, they would come to my helpline. We just, based on what they need, we will get them to the right person to answer their question and get them directly where they need to go. We're also going to determine if people can be connected to housing stabilization services if they indicate they'd like ongoing support. So we can be doing consults for that. Other questions? I don't have the chat
That sounds
up. So let's see.
fabulous. Do we have anyone else? And
Okay.
Ms. Romero, the businesswoman that she is already checking the chat to see if there is anything in the chat. And I want to thank you, Ms. Romero, for stepping in and stepping up at this last minute. I graciously appreciate you.
No problem.
And then,
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course. And then also just sidebar, there is going to be Heather West with Chip, who our wonderful scribe, among other things in the hats that she wears. She created a LHPA document, and it's going to be a ongoing running document that will follow through as we're going through with the LHPA ongoing the best way. Mr. Patrick had asked if we would create that, and Heather created that document. So we have that. So what we'll look into, and SHIP doesn't know this, I'm just bringing this to them, is to see if we can create a link that you all can have, that the table can have, to be able to view it and look at it, see about if you want to just add your own updates. So we'll get, some information out in that with follow-up email. All right, so going on, next on board, I am going to go to Miss Jenny Mason.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Marla.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jake and I are overseeing our local homeless prevention assistance funds, and I'll just a recap. We meet regularly with the McKinney-Vento liaisons in our school districts, and one of their big requests was for people, for navigators, to help them navigate different resources they might need at the county. So we now have 7 navigators, which we're super excited about. 2 of them are funded through these dollars. And those navigators also have a pot of money from this fund that they can serve families that qualify. That is happening. We've served 14 families to date through the navigators doing the work directly with the families. And those referrals are coming in from the McKinney-Vento liaisons, from school social workers. And I'm trying to think who else. It could be coming through our parent support outreach program and that sort of thing. So that is already rolling and really good, really fun. We've also allocated some direct funds to school districts based on the number of McKinney-Vento students they have. We came up with a number and wanted the school districts, to have some funds that they could kind of provide assistance quickly. So they've pretty recently gotten those funds. I don't know if any of that money has been spent yet, but the school districts are feeling very supported and happy. And we have had some situations. For us, the rule is that you have to be going to a school district in the county, or that part. So someone might live in St. Paul, but they attend school in Washington County, or we had a Washington County family who's moving to Hopkins with some support from this fund because they can get cheaper rent in Hopkins. So we'll continue to support them through the rest of the school year. So that's happening. So this money for us is allowing us to do some infrastructure. We're putting some money into infrastructure with these navigators and that sort of thing. But we even have a part-time accountant person to get checks cut quickly. And so we're dealing with requests in a couple of days. And, as long as we have all the information, it's moving quickly. This is Washington County that I'm talking about. So, yeah, I think that's the main piece. We'll meet with liaisons again soon. So we'll kind of hear how this is serving them. And yeah.
Thank you.
Jake, I don't know if pardon, Miss Marla?
Oh, I was saying thank you. Go ahead though.
Oh, yep.
Were you something to Jacob or Jake?
If I forgot anything, Jake, please.
Oh, yeah, maybe, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, those 14 people that Jenny said were served by our navigators, they were also all served with direct assistance dollars too, for a number of different requests, ranging from rent to beds to furnishings to move into an apartment, a lot of different things.
Thank you for that add-on. We appreciate that from you, Jacob. Laquita, I think I saw your hand up. Were you still wanting to?
My hand wasn't up. I was trying to snap for what I just heard. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you. I get you.
But I do have a question, Ms. Marla.
All right.
For you, Jacob and Jenny. So you said there's 2 navigators that are specifically, I just want to make sure I'm processing this correctly. 2 navigators that are being funded through these LHP
Through these
dollars?
through these
Okay.
dollars, 2 are being funded, but we are up to 7 total in total. So any of the 7 could serve these families.
Okay.
It's just, but yeah, we were able to leverage these funds and other programs. So and the navigators serve anyone, right? But it's really hands-on help to it could be other resources. It could be helping somebody fill out a form, or it just turns out to be a lot of different things that the navigators are doing. But it's a good learning process. It's been a great learning process, these staff.
That's awesome.
Thank you again, Ms. Jenny. And any other questions before we move on? And what we're going to do, and I'll speak with SHIP again, they're not familiar with me just bringing this. I was thinking as I was listening to Ms. Jenny speak, the thought occurring, how we can come up with something as far as when you all, the table has questions for the county, and how we can put that together to get those questions to the county. So we'll put that in our parking lot of discussion, so that we can work that out, Ms. Jenny. And thank you again. Peter, thank you, Laquita. And I think Ms. Josephine too put it, if you could wait in the wings for me, please, and I graciously appreciate you. Lauren, can I have you come on for me? And thank you so much again for last minute, appreciate you, and turn it over to you.
No worries. Thanks for having us. So I will jump in, and then Mikkel Beckman is also here. So if I missed anything, Mikkel, feel free to jump in at the end. So we are looking to expand our existing Homework Starts with Home or housing school partnerships that already exist in Hennepin County. And then we're looking to create new ones. So we kind of have 2 different models that we're working with. So part of this model is expanding existing collaboratives to focus on longer term prevention, to add that toolkit to their already existing resources that they provide, and then to support new school housing partnerships. So I've been doing a lot of work with schools, getting them interested in the program. We are also with new partnerships looking to use housing resource navigators as well. Hearing from a lot of schools, capacity was a really big issue. So working with Heading Home Corps, the AmeriCorps program, to have 5 or 6 navigators be supervised by Hennepin County, but then be assigned to specific school districts These are going to be the point of contact for McKinney-Vento homeless liaisons or social workers to make referrals into, and then they will be doing the screening. They will be completing all of the applications. And then at Hennepin, we are trying to create a centralized one-stop shop so that they may be eligible for resources under LHPA, but maybe it's a better fit if they just need EA, emergency assistance one time, or maybe FHPAP is a better resource, and then LHPA can really be reserved for longer term prevention as needed. So we're trying to do all that administrative work on the back end so that people can just come and ask for help, and then we'll figure out what is the best resource to meet their need. We too are building a little bit of infrastructure, and that we are going to be administering the rental assistance directly for families so that schools or service providers don't have to pick that up. Schools can focus on the education piece, and then we are going to be doing a request for proposal to have services to accompany those that are in receiving financial assistance through LHPA. So our service providers can focus on services, and then Hennepin will be distributing the rental assistance. And again, that's for our new programs. Our existing programs and our existing collaboratives look a little bit different since they've been up and running for a little bit. So they'll be doing things a little bit differently. Just to also mention, we continue to work with our prevention governance committee. And this committee includes individuals of lived experience and service providers. And they give us guidance and advisement on FHPAP, but now also LHPA. And we are still looking to expand to include more individuals with lived experience and those from our school district partnerships to advise on that committee. I'm just checking my notes to see if there's anything I missed. Oh, and the other program that we are looking to develop a partnership is within Hennepin County. We have a program called Teen Hope, and they serve parenting youth or pregnant youth that are on MFib and working on their education. So we are hoping to support that program with rental assistance as well. So we're kind of treating that as its own little program so that they can be served with rental support for housing stability throughout Hennepin County. Otherwise, Mikkel, and I think my colleague Lonnie is also here if there's anything you'd like to add.
Just a couple of things. We're hoping to have a range of rental assistance from 6 to 24 months with our school-based partnerships. And then one other thing we're hoping to do is we're hoping to contract with up to 2 youth serving agencies to provide support services for our what's called our FYI program, which is a new opportunity that came to Hennepin County a year and a half ago. HUD changed its rules, the federal government, and allowed us to start receiving 3-year subsidies for young adults experiencing homelessness who have even 1 day of out-of-home placement history or foster care experience. And so we have worked with 4 housing authorities and 7 youth agencies to launch this FYI program with 100 voucher opportunities. But we're going to use some of these funds to help support the support services that are part of the required part of that program. So sorry if that was convoluted or too much detail. But we're excited about all of these options, and we're hoping, one of our goals, macro goals, is to create a unified prevention ecosystem or environment to stop the resident runaround experience where you have to go door to door looking for help, especially in a crisis. And this centralized rental assistance pool will be able to hopefully have direct access to and connection to EA and EGA and FHPAP and LHPA and the federal ERA money. We just got another almost $1 million from the feds in reallocated unused rental assistance money from other states that didn't use theirs. We're like, we'll take it. We have a need, right? So all of these alphabet soup programs that are wonderful that help support renters in Hennepin County stay stably housed. If we have one team, it'll just work so much better, we hope. That's the dream. So this is going to really allow us to do that. That's part of the infrastructure building that Lauren mentioned. And it's one of the more, I'm very excited by that because it has been a dream of ours. So we'll have flex funds for people coming to eviction court or housing court for families who want to stay in their neighborhoods and keep their kids in the schools they're already in, for parenting teens, for youth with histories of homelessness. So yeah, it's all good stuff.
That is fantastic. Good is not the word. That is grand fabulous. Mickle and Lauren, I am so excited, from Miss Jen Romero to Miss Jenny to all of you all, Lauren and Mickle. Lonnie, was there
I
anything that
forgot. I'm sorry, just one more thing. Those
Uh-huh.
positions on our governance group are paid positions for people with lived experience to participate in those committee meetings. They're virtual at this point, so you can participate from wherever you are. And we do pay folks for their participation, in case anybody's
Wonderful.
interested.
Well, Ship is always interested, Mickle. So thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm quite sure we will be reaching out. Thank you. Lonnie I did see you in the chat. Thank you. She said not at this point. Peter, and thank you again, Lauren and Mickle. Peter, and I appreciate you, and you can come on the mic when you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Marla. And
Yep.
thank you to everybody else that shared and for allowing me to share. My name's Peter Goldstein. I work as a housing unit supervisor in Scott County. So going to be at a much smaller scale than what we just heard from our partners in Hennepin. So we too are looking at doing a little bit of a tiered approach to how we distribute funding. We have had a partnership now with Beacon Interfaith Housing Collaborative, who else? Volunteers of America and Carver County with our respective child protection, child welfare teams called the Keeping Families Together initiative. And one component of our work together has been the operation of a fund that's available to households that are interacting with our respective child welfare or child protection departments to get different needs that they have met related to housing stability. And it's really been incredibly illuminating to leaders in our community to see sort of the power that flexible funding can have in terms of keeping families out of deeper end services. And that pot of funds is coming to the end. And so we're looking to offset that by having an alternative that would be accessible to staff working in those departments. So as they kind of continue on in the services that they're offering to Scott County families, they're able to access this. Again, really with the intent of keeping people in stable housing or helping them get to the point where they are in stable housing. In addition to that, our emergency assistance team right now, or at least in 2022, received the total number of requests that they'd received in 2019, 2020, and 2021. And we're able to approve just about 6% of those. And so recognizing that we had so many diversions from our emergency assistance team, we did want to supplement that budget as well. Again, it's an existing resource. That's one that people know and are familiar with and are clearly applying to. And there just isn't enough in it to be able to meet the need coming in. So again, looking to supplement that pot very similarly within our family homeless and prevention and assistance program. Depending upon the way that our legislative session cycles out here over the next couple of months, we too, over the last couple of years, have seen opening, screening, and then reaching capacity within about a week or 2 weeks of having that screening open. So again, looking at it as this is an existing place where people know they can go to access different resources and different assistance related to rental help. We thought that it might make sense to supplement that budget too. So that was an area that we were looking at. We have a family resource center model in Scott County that positions family resource centers throughout the county and they can serve as a low barrier place to get connected with different resources and assistance. I'm fortunate to have staff that go to the family resource centers. We've got an eligibility navigator that's there pretty regularly. Some support in cultural navigation services from different nonprofit entities. We have a strong public health presence in the FRCs, and so they too have served as a connection point for families coming in looking for assistance, and at their kind of forefront of operation had a little bit of a pooled fund, so to speak, that they were utilizing to assist families that were coming and engaging in different services there. And so that too was another area where we were looking to supplement. And all told, that will just about put us out of our annual budget. But on top of that, we are looking at a need to find a new family shelter provider, and with the need to kind of put together different funding streams to make a family shelter budget operate. We recognize that there's a significant likelihood that we'll probably have to look to our local homelessness prevention aid to help make some of those line items fit. And so do anticipate the release of an RFI, and do anticipate working in conjunction with whatever provider we select to determine where we could carve out some of the budget to assist their work.
Thank you, Peter. And again, I appreciate you illuminating the great word to utilize that you did when you started off the conversation, and appreciate that. Albeit small, but small doesn't mean it's not grand and doing wonderful things in the work that is being done. And thank you so much for bringing us that update and information. Before I go on, because I think I'm going to take a little off Heather and Renee. So it's just wanted to ask, is either for Anoka, is Miss Jennifer or Mr. Burrell available? And for Ramsey, do we have Miss Renee or Leah?
For Anoka County, I don't believe Jennifer or George are able to make it today, but I'm Tim Carroll. I'm also a lead program planner involved in this funding.
Oh, wonderful. Are you up to speaking? Just a brief update for us, Tim?
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, and that'd be
Appreciate
great if I could jump in, because I have to go at 4:30. So
Yep,
thank you
yep,
for the
okay.
opportunity. So yeah, Anoka County, we're still very much in the planning stages. So anything that I mentioned here could certainly change, but I think we do have a pretty good idea of how we're going to pursue allocating these funds. Like the other counties, really putting a focus on our school districts, probably creating some kind of base funding for each independent school district, and then increasing that based on their homeless population that is reported to the Minnesota Department of Education. Anoka County has a housing help desk, which is well, they have multiple purposes. One is a resource line anybody in the community can call to kind of get matched up with resources depending on what their need is. That is 5 full-time employees that we're looking to probably use some of these funds for, as their current funding source is likely coming to an end or being decreased. They also oversee our emergency homeless hotel shelter program. And so we're looking to expand that program. Right now, we're looking at probably like 12 families, mostly the families that are serviced through our hotel shelter program. So we're looking to expand that program somewhat. Also, in terms of just providing some much needed navigation services, we're looking to possibly fund a navigator that would attend our housing court and provide assistance and resources to those families, especially those who might not qualify for EA, EGA, or FHPAP funds. So potentially people who are up to 400% over the federal poverty guidelines. Also, in terms of navigation, adding one full-time navigator to Hope for Youth, potentially, our youth shelter program. And then also just potentially expanding our family shelter program. So Family Promise, and then also Hope for Youth. So our youth and family shelter programs are really kind of lacking and needing funding to expand. And then also kind of using a lot of these funds funneled through economic assistance to pay for everything that everyone else has mentioned: back rents, damage deposits, first month's rent, and so on. Especially those who, again, might not qualify for EA or EGA. So yeah, as of right now, that's those are some of the things that we're focused on in Anoka County.
Thank you, Tim. I graciously appreciate you stepping in and providing that update and taking out time to do that for us. Last minute, thank you again. And then we're going to wrap up, you guys. The one for Miss Rebecca, I'm going to just, we'll include hers so that you all can see what she had sent. I won't read it just for, we'll get it included though, to be sure that you all do see what Miss Rebecca sent. However, Miss Thesis, I did see you in the chat. Graciously thankful that you are here, and you can go ahead when you're ready.
I'm ready, Ms. Marla. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
For Ramsey County, we've been holding pretty regular meetings with youth and family stakeholder groups to determine really how best to utilize these funds. We really wanted our design to be well informed by community and resident voices. So with our first group, which are focused on the needs and priorities of youth, within that group, we have several seasoned homeless service providers, and then our youth advisory board, which is made up of BIPOC youth with lived experience of homelessness, and it's led by 2 of our funded community-based consultants. This group has really determined that the funding should be prioritized for overnight and day shelter with prevention and resource navigation services that are specific to the youth population, and that would include youth families. However, if those particular shelter expenses are covered by our legislative ask, then we plan to provide rapid rehousing with a medium to long-term subsidy that would be infused with coaching and supportive services. And then for our second group, which is focused on the needs and priorities of families, we have housing and homeless service providers, legal aid, and then St. Paul Public Schools at the table in that particular group. We've also had the distinct privilege to have SHIP Collaborative's very own Renee Rock. And Renee has been so helpful very recently in just lending her perspective and expertise to not only ensure alignment with the systems modeling that we've done here with Regional Kitchen Table, but to really also center the experiences of folks that often fall through the cracks due to making just over what often makes them ineligible for benefits or other financial assistance programs. So our families group has determined that funding should be prioritized first to meet the needs of their unsheltered families. So on any given day in Ramsey County, our family shelters are full. We often have a wait list of 30 days or longer. So similar to the youth stakeholder group, the families group would like to see a year-round hotel program for families that are staying in their cars or outside or otherwise, right? Not meant for human habitation. And we would cover this cost again if it's not covered by our legislative ask. And then the remaining funds for that group, which would be around 700,000, maybe more, maybe $1 million, if we have our funds covered elsewhere. These would be prioritized for working families identified by urban or suburban school districts to receive short or medium-term rental assistance. And then in this particular model, we'd like to pair families with a coach where participants really have a choice in determining the goals that they'd like to achieve that really set them up for success in the long run. So this could be, job training, budgeting, financial literacy, wealth building, wellness, etc. So the plan is really set by the participant and then supported by the coach. So that's where we're at. We're kind of getting to the tail end of our planning phase. So we hope to issue an RFP, hopefully this summer.
Thank you, Ms. Cease. I heard some wonderful things there, and exceptionally our Miss Renee Rock of so we appreciate you with that update, and of course we appreciate Miss Renee Rock. Fantastic name. And without now, and again, I just want to thank all of you. Just reiterating, this was a last minute. And I am so very graciously thankful for all of you, each and every one stepping in to give updates. Thank you all so much. And again, we will get Miss Rebecca's out to you here with the follow-up. Without further ado, because we do want to jump into the FHPAP, we're going to bring on the fantastic Heather West, and she's going to go ahead and dive into that for you all.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, Ms. Marler, so much. That was wonderful to hear everybody. We appreciate you taking the time, not only today, but since our last convening to send in updates. As Ms. Marler said, we are going to keep ongoing, keep checking in, keep seeing how we can help. A ship can be there for you guys because you have been there for us. We are a group and we work together. So now we're going to go into, some of you guys have already talked a little bit about these funds in your updates just now, but we're going to talk a little bit about the fast track emergency rental assistance, that extra money that the governor passed, signed, I believe on March 30th. Kind of give Renee Rock once again and myself met with Minnesota Housing. They were unfortunately Nancy and Diane already had previously scheduled meetings going on right now. They wish they could be here. They were going to try to join towards the end, but most likely they weren't able to. So I know most of you already know this as far as what these funds are, how they came to be, and so forth, but just to kind of give a little overview. So the signed, Governor, as you know, signed an extra 50 million. We found out when we were talking to Diane and Nancy that that it kind of came up as far as when they found out. Huh? Somebody say something? Oh, or I'm just, somebody was off mute. Sorry.
Diane is here.
Oh, Diane. That's
I am here, but
wonderful. I can keep, and you can chime in as needed.
well, I think you're doing great. So I say just keep going with it, and then I'll just fill in if I think you're missing anything. But I think you're doing awesome.
Well, thank you. They shared a little bit with how they this bill kind of came to be. It was interesting to hear that they were kind of given about, I think it was a week's notice, and you guys they went and talked to the providers and kind of see what you guys needed as far as funding, and so, and then came back and with the number, and I think approximately 12 million was in this 7-county metro area is what ended up as far as when it accumulated everything, the number came to. Of course, each county has separate, I think it was 1.5, you said, Nickel, for Hennepin County. And another thing is that they were able to, for families that were approved, to bypass that 24 months cap. And let me move this on. They also had some difficulty where they did get hung up a little bit is the language, trying to form the language around how they can prioritize the quickness of this bill. which was the key piece. And obviously they would talk to some people and were able to work that through because they got it passed. When it comes to what it is, it's a standalone bill, and they were able to surpass the RFP process to make it move quickly. All right. Unfortunately, one thing is not until October, I believe, you have to use providers that are already, or programs that are already up and existing. And when it comes to October, they're going to be, what is it called? What do you call it when it comes to the contract, Diane? Brain farting. Amend.
Yeah, so it'll be the new biennium. The new biennium starts October 1st. Yep. So right now it's just the current existing providers, just as you said.
And then, so then when it comes to October, the new biennium, then you'll be able to utilize that money for new providers, correct?
Yes, and so the tricky part is we can provide some of the fast track money now, which is great. And we did get over that hurdle you mentioned so that we can even allow them to use the funds that they would have used through September early, so that we don't even have to wait. They can already start serving households right now. And then our contract amendments will hopefully be approved by our board, which we're going to board on Thursday. And then we hope that those fast track funds can be implemented around June 1st, which is some additional funding that could provide up to 6 times the amount that providers are currently operating with. So really good news there. It'll be able to ramp up a little bit faster than we thought. And then we'll have, we have an RFP that we issued out for the fast track funds. And those applications are being reviewed now, and that's what will start October 1st. And so depending on what's in the applications and whether we have additional applicants, it might sort of broaden the providers that we have currently to more providers. Then we also might even do another RFP in case we think that whatever's in those applications isn't going to meet the needs that we're seeing in the community. So that's another possibility.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you were able to make it happen there. I don't know if anybody has currently any questions. We do. Let me flip to the. I should ask you, Diane, if you mind if anybody had any questions that they can ask you right now, or put in the chat, or contact you at a later time as well. So I'll give it a second.
Diane, this is Jenny. When you spoke about the separate RFP, you're just talking about the FHPAP RFP, or
yeah. So there was an RFP that was for FHPAP that's already gone out, and we have the applications and are reviewing those now. And that starts October 1st. Then we might do another RFP that could that could start sometime between whenever we issue that and October 1st, in order to make sure that we're covering all the populations that we want to reach and that we have all the coverage that we need. So it just depends on what all of those applications look like. So for example, if people weren't anticipating as they were applying the amount of funds available, and maybe a region hasn't made a request for enough funding to serve the need that we see in that community, we might want to shore that up a little, or figure out a way that we could solicit for additional providers. I think a really important piece is about how we can address inequities that have been present in our system already for serving populations that have not been able to access these resources before. And we really want to make sure that we have the partners in place to be able to reach those populations that haven't even been able to benefit from those resources. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is what does the picture look like for the funding that's been applied for, and is it broad enough and going to meet the needs of the population that we want to reach?
And I asked the question because so basically you're talking, if I would want to really help prep folks locally, if it could be, but if there are culturally specific groups that could apply locally, but I mean, as it stands right now in statute, right? It's just the county. So are you talking more outstate about being able to open up, or?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there's a couple of things under consideration by the legislature currently. One is that we would maybe be able to contract with organizations that are not only metro counties if the agency sees a need that isn't being filled by what's been, sort of solicited for through the counties. So that might be something that we could hurdle. Jenny, in the metro area, is be able to directly fund a provider that doesn't, so they wouldn't have to go through the county solicitation process to do that. And that's really only for this, kind of this surplus funding, I believe. And then there's also another piece of the language that is looking to fund tribes directly with $10 million of whatever is approved by the legislature. And if that happens, then we need to make sure that we're reserving that funding so that we can provide that directly to tribes. So there's a few things that are sort of up in the air until the legislature finishes its process.
Thank you.
Give me a second. Anybody else have a questions? Otherwise, you can reach Diane if you have any questions directly. I know she's more than willing to help, as always. You're great. I appreciate you so much. I'm going to then now pass it back to Miss Marla, because she is going to dig into some discussion problems, some questions, so we can have a big group conversation around this. I'll pass it to you, Miss Marla.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you. All right, everyone, back on board, and we're looking at time, and I think we're about at a little past 4:30. So we do have, I was thinking, of course, again, thoughts occurring while conversation was going on. So we did on the suggestion of Ms. Josephine, we shifted our questions around to our main three. Looking at time, so we have the three there. Let's start with one, because I don't want us to gloss over, the question. So we'll go ahead and start with question one. Apologize, I'm trying to look and multitask here and look at the question at the same time because I'm looking on to something else. So my apologies for the delay. All right. So we just want you all to jumping in as you feel. I will call on individuals if necessary. So the first one, though, is how are these funds going to immediately help prevent people from becoming homeless? And I think I've heard some of that discussion even on the LHPA side, but I know that this is a different fund and different funding. I'm not as enlightened and as educated as my fellow SC members. So I won't do much diving into that, but I do want to ask you as a table, how, from your point of view, that you think that this will be a preventive measure. And so anyone can feel free to dive in. Also feel free to put your thoughts in the chat as well. And I do want to hear from a SHIP member or two.
Renee Thies has her hand up.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, sure.
Please go ahead.
So with the fast track funds for Ramsey County, we're dedicating all of those funds to our prevention work. A lot of those funds will be used for the eviction crisis that we're in. And we're working internally with our department. We have some leftover ERA funds, COVID ERA funds, about $2 million. So we're working to better resource who is taking part in housing court. Sorry, I couldn't find my words. So we're hoping to be able to resolve some of the higher balances that we're seeing through that combined effort, and with more money coming from fast track. And then we also have a prevention provider that does diversion, shelter diversion. So with the ability, again, to have some more funds to work with, we've also lost in the metro area the ability to rely on the community sharing fund as a resource to bundle for these higher emergencies. So having the additional funds through Fast Track is really going to help overcome that gap in funding that we're experiencing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you for giving your insight and thought and information on that, Ms. Thies. Is there anyone else that would like to piggyback on that or have your own thoughts, ideas in regards to the question at hand? And again, just for sake of time, you can put it in the chat. So we're just going to not, Ms. Mason, I see you're saying similar to other counties. We currently, you all, oh, it closed out before I had to, okay, there it is. Similar to other counties, we currently have to deny 90% of the economic assistance requests that come in because we are out period, up period, money period, okay? Our focus in Washington will be to review the denied applications for FHPAP eligibility and reach out to serve those families and singles. Yeah, that's a big issue, Miss Jenny, yeah. I like that out period, up period, money period. Anyone else want to piggyback on that? If not, we are going to keep it moving. I'm not trying to gloss over this, just at time we might have to consider some other options. I do hear somebody coming off mute.
I do.
Okay, Elder Pam.
And so I have a question for Renee. And that question would be, how do you access these funds for families within the community that is trying to prevent being homeless?
Was that for this, Renee?
Yes, it was.
It's amazing how many meetings I've been in recently where there are so many Renees. I've never had so many Renees in my life. So the question was, how do people access the funds?
Yes.
Okay. So, well, there's a couple of different ways, and we're working on that approach actually to have a better system in place to help people navigate, right? Because currently in Ramsey County, there are quite a few doors. So we're working on updating our public facing information and then trying to develop a triage function for people that are seeking assistance. But currently, if families are facing an eviction, we have 2 providers that will get information from the courts about those households that are facing eviction and then reach out to them proactively to see if they can resolve that emergency prior to getting to court. There's also a list on our housing stability webpage and then our Heading Home Ramsey webpage that publishes the FHPAP providers that provide prevention assistance. So those are kind of the 2 primary ways. And then if someone is seeking shelter specifically for families, they will either do an assessment through coordinated, 211, or directly through our emergency shelter team. And then through that screening with the shelter team or 211, they are also referred over to our diversion team to see if they can resolve that emergency prior to getting into shelter.
Follow-up question.
Yes.
We, in the community, we try to avoid people from getting to that court system because once the unlawful detainer is on your record, it's a little bit difficult to get it off. So in prevention, I'm asking the question, how do we access funds from the community to be able to help families without having an unlawful detainer?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. So how do we prevent somebody from having an unlawful detainer ahead of
Yes.
meeting with
You
them?
don't want people to get the unlawful detainer, but you do know the situation and they came to you for help so that they can preempt an unlawful detainer, you know.
Gotcha. Okay, sure. So the providers that are working with folks in housing court, and I don't want to speak for them because they're really the experts, right? I am not coordinating the effort, but I am not the expert there. But from my understanding, they're connecting with those folks when they have received an eviction notice. And then they're working with legal aid, and then they work inside of a financial clinic. So in partnership with legal aid, they'll try to resolve that emergency if they can settle, then legal aid will come in, specifically the Volunteer Lawyers Network, to expunge that record of the eviction being filed. Is that helpful?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that from you, Ms. B. All right, I'm actually going to go to question number 3. I was thinking that one was, I should prioritize that one over question 2. How does the FHPAP fast track bill passed from Minnesota Housing is an opportunity to leverage prevention and change and or develop bills and policies that will help people before they are in crisis mode? And I think that connects actually with what Elder Pam was just asking. So if anyone wants to jump in real quick, I'm going to read Mr. Bryan's chat. He says, it sounds like there might be an opportunity in Ramsey County to continue to move up the prevention stream, so to speak. How might we reach households sooner before evictions are filed? And of course, just for the sake of conversation, that is, one of the prevention measures that is a great problem. If when you get into that circumstance and situation, and that's what the goal is of what resources and what can we, be in place to not have that eviction and or especially not receive an unlawful detainer. So if anyone, let's see. I'm going to look here and I'm going to ask if I could have, hi Liz. May I have a comment from you on this question, please?
I'm sorry,
you've
Ms.
had a
Marlowe.
long day. If you're not up to it, that's fine.
I think Renee was going to respond. So
Okay.
go ahead in the chat. You want to give her some space?
Thank you, Carla.
This Renee again, right? So to Brian's comment, sounds like there might be an opportunity in Ramsey County to continue to move up the prevention stream. Absolutely. And this is something that we've been able to talk a little bit more about too when we've been talking about the local homeless prevention aid as well. Like how do we get there? We know that we have a great providers in our community with FHPAP that are trying to do that too. And at the same time, right now we are dealing with a huge crisis with eviction. So it's sort of like we have to address the crisis, but at the same time, we have to think about how do we do this? How do we work further upstream? One of the strategies that we're working on is across the aisle with our Workforce Solutions Department, which has a diverse array of programming and projects. We want to better align with them to identify those households, especially families that are on MFIP, that are working, right? That are working or they're engaged in a plan. They want to move out of poverty, but they need the resources to be able to do so. And historically, coming from an employment services background, the county hasn't done an exceptional job of, working across the aisle between departments. So with Workforce Solutions, it's really a great partnership that's starting to develop to figure out how can we connect better, how can we identify households together better, and connect those providers in the community that are working with employment services counselors. Because a lot of times we're, referring here and referring there and everywhere, right? And that no one is connecting the dots. We're duplicating the effort. So that's one of the ways. It's not the only way, right? But we have more work to do in that area.
Thank you, Ms. Thies. And I was seeing Heather was putting in the in the chat that she was interested if Peter Lauren, Gianlani Mickle, and all of you, and how this unique, I'm not sure if that word right there, allocation of funds can be an opportunity to advance policies that help people and families sooner.
Diane has her
That's
hand
your
up.
hand raised. Sorry.
I'm in the chat, so I can't see hands. Thank you all. Extra. Okay, thanks, Heather.
Sure. I was just going to mention, I don't know as much about this, but there is a tenants' rights bill that is going through the legislative process that I think one of the clauses is that landlords would have to provide a 14-day notice prior to the eviction notice. So I would think that would be a great opportunity for FHPAP fast track funds to be an intervention if the household receives that notice. I think the trick is, how do you then connect the household who receives that notice to an agency who could help with assistance? And maybe there's I'm sure there's way more county expertise than that can follow up on that, but I would be paying attention to the tenant rights bill. And I apologize that I don't have the actual like House file or Senate file, but that would be one thing to watch for policy change.
Yeah, policy change is a very much necessity. And so I do see there's a lot going on in the chat.
Jen has her hand up.
Conversation. Who is that, Heather?
Jen Romero has her hand up.
Oh, Ms. Romero, go ahead, please.
So I just wanted to comment that the two things we're trying to do to get ahead of the actual court eviction. So number one is we don't need an actual eviction filing to start the FHPP process in Scott and Carver. We just need that. There does need to be a threat, though, to that happening. So they're past due. The landlords had a conversation with them. And then the CAP agency, when they're processing the application, would be connecting with the landlord to verify that, yes, if this doesn't get paid, it would end up in court. So that's one thing that could keep it out of court. And the second thing is we contract with 211 to do all of our prevention screening. They are 24/7, 365 days a year, and they've been doing an awesome job for us this whole biennium so far. And then they do that initial screen. And then when someone is found to be potentially eligible, they send that information straight on to CAP agency, and then CAP calls the household. The household doesn't need to call another agency. They will get a call to do the next step. So that's how we've set up our system for this entire biennium. But we're just excited to have more resources to work with in our pool of funding.
Thank you. I like how you have Jen in Carver County, as far as how you set up with it. They reach the family instead of having the family reach them. That's awesome. Yeah, Miss Marla?
Yeah, thank you for stepping in. I was it's a lot going on, and I'm trying to multitask because Ms. Josephine let me know, and Laquita looking at the clock for me. So I was thank you so much, Heather. Was not ignoring you, Ms. Romero. And I think that was Mr. Bryan or Ms. Patrick that also commented. So we're going to go ahead, you guys, and wrap up. Great conversation, fantastic. And I thoroughly would love to keep this going. We at SHIP will figure out what we'll do with the remaining questions, because as you can see with the advance of the slide, Heather, we have 2 more. So we'll see if we'll carry that on to the June 6th meeting, or maybe send them out prior to, so that we can already have some responses, but we'll figure that out. So we're going to do the recap here. And that you all is me as well. So to share 3 things that I am excited about, and it was actually just more than that. And I was, yes, that's a key word, Laquita, robust. Yes, yes, I totally concur. Conversation. And I had more than that, and I would have loved to have been able to type as you all were speaking. So what I have is things that I'm very excited about: the various avenues of the prevention assistance for the multiple types of homelessness, circumstances, issues, and situations. Excuse me for talking fast. That applications are being available, or going to be available in multiple ways: by mail, in person, online. Fantastic. The Youth Expectant Mothers program centered around education. Wonderful. I can't say too many accolades. I'm not thinking of words here. The lived experience of us being of assistance. The hotel stays, so people don't have to be in their cars and so forth. The FHPAP looking to if the funding is sufficient to meet needs of families. There was something else on the end of there, Miss Diane said. Funding for the tribes, bundling, triage function, and not needing to file for the to be able to get the FHPAP in the court process, and the 211 prevention screening, initial screening. So just some great points there that have been covered. I am just thrilled. This has been just a wonderful conversation and meeting with you all. And again, to the county, just can't thank you all enough. So there will be upcoming discussions as we're going forward, as was mentioned earlier by Ms. Renee Rock. We'll be going into objective priority number 2. And they are going to be ongoing, as Ms. Josephine pointed out to me. So they will, but we will be now going to priority 2. And then in speaking on that, we want to bring child protection services. We have a couple of SHIP of us who have had to deal with that circumstance. And there is one of the ladies who is one of the younger ladies who is very passionate, but we all are. So we want to incorporate that into the priority 2, into one of the strategies. And we'll go into that, of course, when we meet back in June 6th. So with that, again, thank you all so very much. And then I am going to turn it back over to Sister Janelle, who will carry us out.
Yes, thank you, Miss Marla. And again, I just want to reiterate, thank you guys so much for attending the meeting. It was a great conversation. I learned a few new things today, and thank you. Thank you each and every individual county for coming and reporting back. I'm just going to share our next conveying Twin Cities Regional Kitchen Table meetings. We'll send the invites out via email and via calendar invite when the date is coming closer. But just to say the dates out and just make sure that they're fresh in your mind right now. So June 6th, we'll be meeting from 3:30 to 5. September 12th, we'll be meeting from 3:30 to 5. October 24th, we'll be meeting from 3 to 5, and that one is in person. So, and the location will be to determine. So we'll get you that information when it becomes available. And then December 5th from 3 to 5. And that'll be the wrap up for 2023. So we'll just, meet again and just, share what we've been doing for the year of 2023 and maybe what's coming next in 2024. So again, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and thank you for being here. And I always end with a quote. So my quote today is, Excuse me, guys. You guys know I'm vision impaired, so please just bear with me. I have to get to that screen. The strength of the team is each individual member, but the strength of each individual member is the team. And again, I would like to say thank you, and Hotep, I find you in peace, and I greet you in peace, and I leave you in peace. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
everyone.
Good
We
night.
appreciate
Until next
you all.
time.
Would you be
Have a
so kind
wonderful
as to
remainder of the day.
put those dates in the chat real quick?
Yep, I will do that real
Oh.
quick.
Thank you kindly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
before
we'll
we
be
go
sending
out.
out an,
Yeah, I heard
we're
that
sending
too.
out an
Oh,
email
there
for
they
that
are.
as well
Okay.
too.
I was just putting them real quick in my planner. I'm from the old school. I still have a planner.
So do I.
Yeah,
So do
ain't nothing
I.
wrong with that.
Oh, okay. I'm not by myself, huh?
Elder
Oh,
Jackson,
No,
no
you're not.
ma'am.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, take it easy.
I'm almost there. Give me 2 more minutes.
Yep, no problem.
And then I have a question. Are you still there?
Mm-hmm, we sure are.
What would be the most expeditious way for me to, if I wanted to do some recap in terms of research, from where we started and about our journey along the way in terms of, rereading, etc. What would be the best way to go about doing that in terms of, the kitchen table?
From the beginning today, or from the beginning of
No,
Regional
yeah,
Kitchen Table Inception?
from the beginning and the inception, yes.
So we do have all the recordings.
Okay.
Recordings, so that we could share as well. And then of course there's the and then the notes taken from each as well.
Okay.
If you would like us to share that with you.
That would
And
be
the
absolutely, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Elder Jackson. There's the RKT guidebook as well.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The RKT guidebook.
Okay, I missed that. Where would I find that?
Maybe we could
share
can
that
we
with
send
you.
her- yeah, we can share the link with you and get that to you. You want to put your email? May you put your email in the chat, Elder Jackson?
Yes, I certainly will. Yep.
Okay.
I'd appreciate that. Because
Yeah.
at 74, I find myself reading and rereading and taking notes and reading some more. So I would appreciate it
We will do that.
immensely.
Alexis just wanted to let us know we still recording, so people will hear the end of
Don't
this.
talk about nobody, huh? Okay, there's the email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank y'all. Until
You're
we meet
welcome,
again.
Elder.
Indeed.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody be safe.